Thank you, Dr. Bandar. Very detailed, very informative. You did sort of warn me that you wanted to speak for 2 hours, but kindly you've agreed to finish it in 45 minutes. Very kind of you. May I just request our next speaker, Sister Haneefa Sarwar, to make a presentation. Please welcome her in the warm manner. Sorry, I just wanted to say that she is a campaign officer for Islamic Human Rights Commission here in London, and she has been working on the issue of Bahrain for the last couple of years. And I think you'll find her presentation well researched and informative. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me. I think it's a very important time at the moment. It's really good that we're having this seminar at the moment, considering what's going on in Bahrain. At the moment, there's an excess of 250 people that have been arrested, and they're alleging torture. They haven't been seen by their lawyers, or they've waited up to 3, 4, 5 weeks before they've even been seen by lawyers. So I know for many people here in this room, it's kind of a difficult time because they know these people personally. I mean, many people I know personally as well who are currently detained and alleging torture at this moment. One of them is the leaflets are at the table in the front. It's Jafar al-Hasabi. So he's currently detained in Bahrain. He went there with his family. He went to Iran for a pilgrimage, and then on his way back to Bahrain he was arrested. And he's still currently detained. The interesting thing about Jafar al-Hasabi is that he's a British citizen. So we have a British citizen who's alleging torture, and so far the British government have acted mutely towards that. In fact, there's even been some newspaper reports about the British ambassador in Bahrain applauding the Bahraini officials for the way they've conducted this recent crackdown. So that's something we definitely need to campaign for. That's what we are campaigning for at the Islamic Human Rights Commission. Some of the things that Jafar al-Hasabi, his lawyers have been saying in the way that he's been tortured is one, that he's been tied in a falaka position. A few of you may know that, but it's basically where the hands and the feet are tied on the string, so the person is hanging. If you can imagine how animals were being roasted in medieval times, that's the falaka position. And when they're in that position, they're beaten. He was beaten, and the reason why that's quite a popular method is because it doesn't really leave many marks on the body. He was also hung from his hands. And as you can see from the picture of him in the leaflet, he's quite a big guy. So to be hung, and so his whole body weight was on his wrists. After that, he's lost all feelings in his hands. And also, he was made to listen to the cries, the torture cries of other detainees. All of these methods I'm describing is very common. Other detainees are also claiming these methods. Bahrain is a party to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the UN ICCPR. Article 9 of the ICCPR states that anyone who is arrested shall be informed at the time of their arrest of the reasons for his arrest, and shall be promptly informed of any charges against him. This article has clearly been breached because this has not happened in Bahrain. Also, these detainees have not had access to lawyers for up to 2, 3, 4 weeks after their detainment. Bahrain is also signed to the UN Convention Against Torture, which prohibits torture and other ill treatments under all circumstances, and also prohibits the use of confessions under torture in legal proceedings. The recent crackdown is indicative of the extent to which the government is apprehensive about the possible results of the upcoming elections in October next month, which may see the Shia majority gain seats in the lower legislative house. Bahrain constitutions and voting districts currently favour Sunni candidates, resulting in a disproportionately low number of Shia representatives in the elected Chamber of Deputies. Increasing activism and demonstrations over the past decade by Shia activists have been identified as a challenge to the power of the ruling Al Khalifa family, despite the fact that the lower elected house is comprehensively restricted by the legislative authority of the upper chamber, which is unelected members of whom are appointed by King Hamad. The government has also restricted the media functions. At the moment, there's a complete media blackout in Bahrain. Therefore, any campaigning by opposition party will be extremely difficult, as they won't be able to spread any of their leaflets, their campaign strategies, or any paraphernalia to provide information for the voters, so the voters know who to vote, who are entitled to vote for the party that they feel represent them. And the reason for this media blackout is because it's believed that Al-Wifaq and NDAS are very popular and may become quite successful in this election, which is also quite alarming that at the moment there's complete media blackout there. There's many underlying causes of this current unrest. It's certainly something that isn't new. It's been building up for a long time and it has very deep-rooted causes. The Bahraini government has been accused of adopting sectarian policies that seek to exclude Shia population from social, economic and political spheres of influence within the country. Inadequate housing, inequitable wealth distribution, high rates of unemployment, poor public services and political exclusions are the policy areas which ultimately need to be resolved. And the myopic predilection of the current government towards violent repression is highly unlikely to alter the wider and more deeply rooted socio-economic and political dissatisfaction amongst the majority of Bahrainis and their consequent struggle for human rights and democratic representation. Here is an example of a living environment of a Shia populated village called Ma'amir. This example is a first-hand account by someone from the a representative from the Islamic Human Rights Commission who visited Bahrain. He describes Ma'amir as Ma'amir is a small village on the main island in Bahrain, right next to the sea. The village is cut off from the rest of Bahrain by a major highway to its north, the sea to its east, and is surrounded by heavy industry in the south and west. The heavy industries based in and around Ma'amir have led to a decrease in the quality of life enjoyed by the people of Ma'amir. Residents have for years blamed pollution from nearby factories for cases of cancer, miscarriages, and breathing and skin problems. The pollution from factories has seeped into the water and has left the water surrounding Ma'amir polluted and dead. Where once people made a decent living from fishing in these waters, today there is no life there. The main culprit is thought to be the oil refinery based to the east of Ma'amir across the island of Sitra. The refinery is run by the state-owned company Babco. The fumes and the smell the oil refinery gives off has had a negative impact on the day-to-day lives of its neighbours. Residents of Mount report that in 2005, a gas leak had a severe impact on the locals. People complained for several days of skin rashes, 4 cases of miscarriage, and around 50 cases of suffocation. Burns and vomiting were also attributed to the gas leak. In February 2010, there was a second incident in which mysterious fumes enveloped much of Bahrain. The Babco refinery is not the only culprit involved, but is one of the most prolific polluters in the area. The other factories are situated around the village in close proximity to the residents' homes and schools. The noise, dust and smells given off by these industries have added and exacerbated the situation. There have been calls for the residents to be relocated. The residents find that this is an unacceptable proposition and are demanding that the factories be relocated further away from the residential homes. So you see, this is one example of the kind of living conditions of the Shia majority. Bahrain is something that at the moment has a lot of extremes. It's moving forward in the sense that economically there's a lot of business, there's a lot of people becoming very wealthy. But then on the other side, there's also situations like this where the indigenous population are not benefiting from any of the wealth that is being developed and gained.